going to keep it covered. I'm going to do 2 minutes, 2 minutes of questions, and then 2 minutes, 2 minutes of questions, or 4 minutes total. If you don't want to take any questions, that's your prerogative. But I'm sorry, I've got to keep it real tight. And by the way, I know there are a lot of people here to hear this conversation. Please hold your remarks until the question and answer period. And we'll just go from there. Thanks.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Chris Conrad. I'm with Friends of Prop 64, and I hope that the Harvey Milk Democratic Club will join us in endorsing Prop 64 and voting for it this year. Prop 64 is a legalization initiative here for California. It's primarily a social justice program, but it also has a business regulatory aspect. So I'm just going to fill you in basically what it means. First off, it does 5 things. It legalizes medical marijuana for purposes of non-medical marijuana for purposes of cultivation, possession, sales, and transportation, and sharing. In order to sell, you would need to get a dual license, one from the state, one from your local government. It actually, despite the sign you saw held up in the front, it does legalize outdoor marijuana grows and greenhouse grows and indoor grows. It says that city governments can go ahead and create an ordinance that would make it a civil ordinance violation. It would not be an illegal act to grow outdoors if the local government does ban it. Most of the state, we think, is going to allow for outdoor grows, and they cannot ban indoor grows, and they cannot ban greenhouse grows. So then the next thing that it does is it regulates the industry somewhat along the lines of what the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act did last year. And it follows a similar model, except it adds some vertically integrated things so that people who grow marijuana don't have to sell it to a distributor. They can grow it, and if they have the right license, they can process it, sell it, retail it, etc. For home grows, there wouldn't be any such a regulation required on that at all. The other thing is that it sets a tax at 15% at the retail level, plus there's a production tax, and it says that the way the tax is going to be dispersed. And the last thing it does is it legalizes industrial hemp cultivation by eliminating the requirement for a federal license to grow it. So it primarily does these things. The legislature can continue to reduce penalties. They cannot recriminalize anything. They can make some adjustments with a supermajority, but again, they cannot recriminalize anything. And I think I should turn over to Mikki since I have this little amount of time. She's going to tell you a little more of the social justice elements of it.
Okay, the great thing, one of my favorite things is the way it treats youth, in that it does not criminalize youth. If they get in trouble for the youthful indiscretions, they are offered drug counseling or education plus community service. So by the time they're 18, they are not coming out of their youth with any criminal records. It allows for people to expunge their records. People will get out of jail when the penalties are reduced. You can see there's significant reductions in the penalties. If you don't vote for it, it's going to keep all of these felonies in place. I just want to tell you that this initiative is endorsed by some people that I think you would very much respect. Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, State Senator. Okay, maybe not.
Hey.
Senator Mark Leno, Assembly Member David Chu, the California Democratic Party, ACLU, the person a co-founder, Patrice Cullors of the Black Lives Matter.
Can I jump in, Nick?
What's that?
2 other things I want to point out, though, because we're almost out of time. The first is it stops police searches of people for small amounts of marijuana, including over the odor of marijuana, which means that fewer people are going to have problems with law enforcement. The other thing that it does is that it creates opportunity for nonprofits to provide low-cost marijuana to people who can't afford the current system, as well as allowing people to grow and share with one another. So we think these are very important for people who are otherwise most often exposed to law enforcement. It's going to prevent that from happening. One last thing.
Okay, I also wanted to add Carol Ruth Silver to this list of endorsers. She was targeted by Dan White along with Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone at that time. All these people recognize that this is going to reduce arrests, incarcerations, the criminalization of people. I'm waiting for it to come into a legal market, a legal environment, so people are not stigmatized and discriminated against for their use of cannabis. And I've been a long time equal rights activist, and I support this, and as do a lot of social justice organizations, because it does provide for a lot of social justice reforms.
Thank you very much. We have time for one quick question. Denise, because you are a member of this club and Daniel,
Yes,
because
there's no you can't give away cannabis.
Yes,
and,
you can.
well, it says
It
in
says you can share.
section 4.3A, section 4.2 says you cannot give cannabis away. It says right here.
It's not true.
I have it
That's
right
not,
here.
it's not what it says.
All right.
What it says is that you cannot give it away as a profit. You cannot give it away as a way of undercutting people, other businesses. You can't give it. It's only related to commercial, is what I'm saying. Personally, it doesn't stop you at all.
Nathaniel,
Because where I
quick
grow,
question. Denise, it's not a back and forth.
Okay.
Nathaniel?
My question is about medical marijuana patients who currently are able to grow medical marijuana in their home, indoor or outdoor. How will the recreational legalization affect them?
Section 11362.45 says that it does not affect medical marijuana laws at all.
Okay.
And if you need more than what's offered for the adult use of non-medical, then get your doctor's note and you keep all your rights and you can possess more and grow more.
More than 6 plants?
Yeah,
Yes.
it only applies to non-medical.
It's really
The initiative
hard.
is about non-medical use.
Thank you very much for coming, and I want to hear from the opposition to Prop 64 as well. You'll have the same amount of time and an opportunity for questions.
So, good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be back home. I'm the former chair of the Harvey Milk Cannabis Caucus and worked to create the David Campos task force, which actually had some equity seats for low-income patients. This is backed and really choreographed by one elite group, and that causes a lot of problems when it comes to patient needs. Basically, when we look at affordability, that's the first issue. Prop 15 promised affordability and promised a fair regulatory system. And when we look at affordability, not just myself, a poverty scholar, saying that the price is going to triple. We have Steve D'Angelo, a Fortune, magazine millionaire, saying that with the combination of MRSA, which is the new state law that passed, and this, and they're a double-headed monster. They work together. They're in the same think tank. And if both a millionaire and a poverty scholar are saying that the price will triple, we have a huge issue. And so I'm here to ask the club to slow this down. Let's actually get some real education, because in the cannabis community, we call this, when it first came out, it was called UMA, and we call this the UMA deception. I want to just ask real quickly, does anybody here support jail time for cannabis use?
No.
Okay, this has 6 months jail time for youth between 18 and 21 who cannot afford to pay a fee. That is straight up evil. That is targeting urban youth. And we're going to see a lot of targeting of urban youth with this bill through no smoking in public, open containers. We don't even really legally know what an open container is going to mean for us. And this doesn't happen in your closed gate, affluent, mostly Caucasian cannabis communities. The police aren't going to be coming in and saying, hey, is that an open container? It doesn't matter. For every door it opens, it shuts 3 more. It's creating new crimes, 3 new felonies, and it basically, the way it was created really needs to be looked at too. 17 community groups came forward with community ballots and were basically, didn't get on the ballot, were pushed aside for the backers of this, which include Gavin Newsom. Scott Wiener is doing a huge amount of promotion and basically trying to run a campaign on our backs. It's really scary, actually. It's quite terrifying. As far as the help for nonprofits, well, I'm a radical, right? I came to the club and I got us to not support Gavin Newsom and support Quentin Mikki. And what this actually does is create a pet project slush fund for whom they have been grooming for governor, which is Gavin Newsom, through DPA. They've been grooming him for years. And I'm really scared of that because we need the programs that actually benefit the patients to stay in place. And not only do we need that, we need our small business and farms. And A lot of the opposition is coming from within the community. The largest growers organization will not come out in support of this, has remained neutral. The Small Farmers Union has joined the law enforcement in opposition. So there's a lot of opposition within the community. Nearly every person that was involved in Prop 215 is opposing this. So I really encourage you today to either vote no or slow it down so that we can actually have an informed discussion. A lot of progressive window dressing in this and a lot of tricks.
Okay, so there's time for 2 quick questions. Denise?
Okay, so outdoor grows. We already talked about that, but what about Monsanto? Is money coming from Monsanto? And they want to privatize cannabis and big pharma?
Well, we have like a few different things going on that level in California. You have this thing called Common Vision, which is buying up all the small farms. Is it directly related to Monsanto? Well, we have George Soros at the end of all of this, right? And he is connected to Monsanto. When they came through with Prop 19, a lot of folks did a discovery around the Prop 19 folks and their connection with Monsanto and et cetera. And don't get me wrong, I love Mikki, I love Chris. They threw the people out here that the rest of the community loves the most to kind of contradict us. But there's a huge, huge, huge risk at passing this with our small farmers and our small businesses with a double-headed monster.
All right. One more question. And I want to prioritize actual members who are qualified voters of the club. This is not an opportunity for rebuttal, sorry. Kevin.
Simple question. In what ways is this similar or dissimilar to the Colorado legalization of marijuana?
I think it's a lot of the same players.
Okay.
One way it's very dissimilar is that the funding is not going to go to our schools. That is one thing that the Colorado voters did to kind of get it through, because your average voter is like, okay, it's going to go to the schools. A majority of the taxes from this are actually, at the end of the day, going to end up with law enforcement as an impacted community, and I refuse to see law enforcement as a community and certainly as impacted. Any other questions?
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Shona, for joining us.
Yay!
I love you guys.
And we have one more measure to take up, and this actually pertains to something that is actually pretty confusing on your ballot. After which, I just want to give a heads up that we're going to go into closed session deliberations after this, and that is only qualified members who are qualified to vote in our